Tanse Tawau. I'm Janine Windolf, and I'm the Director of Indigenous Arts here at the Banff Centre. I've been here for 5.5 years now, and really excited because in those 5.5 years, I actually had a guest that I always wanted to bring, and it's today, so I'm really excited. Yes. I'm always happy when an artist says yes. And so I'm originally from La Ronge, Saskatchewan. That's where my paternal family is. And I was saying actually, I'm related to the Mackenzies, the Rats, and the Charles, which is 90% of northern Saskatchewan. So I think you said, oh, they might be related somehow. You never know. But in my 5.5 years, it's always a pleasure to be able to invite people to Sacred Buffalo Guardian Mountain. And what I was always taught is we don't put our teachings in the past. We continue to foster those teachings. And so why I love working here at the Banff Centre is we're situated on the slope of Sleeping Buffalo Guardian Mountain, which you see on the map as Tunnel Mountain. But for Indigenous peoples, there were many names. But when they came together, they said, what's the best name that conveys the ideas of Indigenous people from around the territory and who have connection to the mountain? So, well, we definitely know it was sacred. We know it looks like a mountain, but they said that it's also a guardian. So if you look at the territory, the buffalo, and if you go on the gondola, I always say you can see that it's looking over the Bow Valley, and it's really beautiful. And so we've been gathering Indigenous people here for thousands and thousands of years, not Banff Centre, Indigenous people, but Banff Centre being situated here, I always thought is continuing to foster that work. That spirit of hospitality, of welcoming people. We're just welcoming people from larger than Turtle Island now. We're now beyond. And so to be able to offer this series online as well, I'd like to acknowledge our online guests who are joining us from Zoom, that this gives an opportunity to not only bring the teachings to the mountain, but to ripple them out into the world. So just want to acknowledge those online. And I want to invite up our special guest who's going to help set us up in a good way. I'm nervous. I'm a little starstruck. Allie's like, I've never seen her like that. Elder Curtis, if you'd like to come up. Take as much time as you need.
Okay. I want to thank everyone, and thank you for inviting us from Saskatchewan to come here and to celebrate. And the old ones, they talk about this as people gathered together, and with the women and the arts and the children, when we all starting to get together, they explain that as the eighth fire being lit. That means everyone's working together for a common goal. And being in the art, it's part of that expression of the spirit, the strength, the guidance of the spirit, which allows us to wake up our spirit. That's what the old ones say, that we're here to come to this physical realm to wake up our spirit. And through art is one of the best ways of doing it, and there's many other different things that it can be done. And being welcomed here in Territory 7, I really appreciate it, and we're gonna offer smudges for anybody that's smudge. You pray in your own way as we do that, and if you can experience it if you want. It's a method of a gift from the women to be able to ground ourselves, as well as and I'll just explain the way I was taught, but you can do it in your own way as well. And it's a reminder to do good things in our lives, and I smudge my hands to do good things with my hands. And then I smudge my ears to hear good things. I smudge my eyes to see good things. I smudge my mouth to say good things. I smudge my mind to think good things. And most importantly, I smudge my heart to feel good things, and feeling good things about myself and for the people around. And then the old ones also, the most important part of it is to smudge my mind to my heart to my mind, so that I actually listen to my heart where the real spirit is carried in And the old ones say the longest trip we're ever going to do in our lives is from our mind to our heart. Hi, thank you. Miigwech.
Yeah. Miigwech, thank you for the teachings and the sharing and being with us here today. You know, I always think it's an opportunity to share and ripple those teachings. So anytime someone offers that generosity to be able to share that, I always want to express gratitude, because yes, we definitely need more sharing, because that helps people understand Indigenous ways of knowing. So your openness and generosity you shared today means a lot to me. So thank you. And so nobody came here to talk to Janine. Just kidding. But I am glad to be able to host this series. And so for myself, you know, being in Saskatchewan for many years, I was also a practicing artist and curator. And for many years, I was always hearing stories about this artist, Leah Dorion. Do you know her? She's from your territory. No, but I know Google. And then I was like, oh, wow, you know, that visual art. And then I just started seeing the imagery everywhere. One of the Saskatchewan storytellers of February, I was also in that as well. So I felt like we never quite crossed paths, but we'd hear of each other's work. I definitely heard of her. And you were in, actually, when you mentioned school, I homeschooled my kids and you were in the curriculum. So yes, definitely that ripple into the world and how arts can intersect with education. I think Banff Centre is a great testament for that, because even though we foster arts and leadership, this really is that space that we do educational. We're allowed to experiment and grow and push ourselves as artists in the program. So even as a director, I'm always learning from the artists and participants. And so this series was actually designed to bring artists to kind of help us understand what it takes to decolonize an art practice. Sometimes people say, hey, we don't decolonize. I don't like that word. That's okay. You just share with us, because I think it's the willingness to take in the teachings, to grow, and whatever that looks like. Because I always said, if it's reconciliation, if it's indigenization, if it's decolonization, I've been at the table because I'm thinking about my kids and my grandkids I don't have yet. And so to have a matriarch come, I want to welcome Leah to the stage and, yeah, share those teachings.
Come on, come on. My little northern. Beautiful. Beautiful. You know, it's so fun to come to Banff and to actually speak at a live event. I'm a children's book author, so that's where I sit really comfortably in my artistic practice. You'll get to know my practice, the diversity of it, and the playfulness of my art. I have a serious side and a childlike side, and you'll get to know a little bit about that tonight. But coming into a live space with a ultra virtual audience is so important. In this world that we're in, it's important to take the gifts from all worlds. And a gift to our children is to give them their roots, give them those old ways, but give them that opportunity to learn in another way. So I honor the Banff Centre for the invitation to do this hybridized presentation and to have an actual live audience. So shout out to the live audience here tonight. You know, I really appreciate that you came on a beautiful July evening in Banff, of course. I would be hiking. I honestly would. But here we are because we really want to connect. And when we come here tonight, my goal is to have you fill your cup with all things good that can be learned from the Métis people of this land through my artistic practice and my personal journey as a Métis artist, currently living in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. I titled my presentation with the beautiful Métis saying, I learned from a Métis elder from Illecross, Saskatchewan, Liz DeRoche. She would come into the room to a meeting or a high tense event, and maybe there's some trauma, they're dealing with reconciliation, maybe trauma and heavy stuff, and she'd just come in and she'd get everyone centered. She did the smudge much like Elder Curtis did to ground everyone. And she had this saying, Kiam ape, come and sit and be present and get grounded. I invite you all just to come into the space and enjoy, be grounded. You're welcome here. You're meant to be here. And I thank the elders like Elder DeRoche, who really teaches those things before we start something to get that balance and that grounding. So what you're in for is my story of how I, as a Métis artist, have represented Métis children and families in a contemporary artistic practice. So you get to see a bit of my art, and you'll get to hear about some of my projects. Here's my little fire. You know, when elders do teachings, especially in northern Saskatchewan, in the bush in the summer, what do? We get that fire lit. And you know, there's nothing better in my memory. Growing up in where I grew up in central northern Saskatchewan, summer was about having the fire, and Dad coming out with some great ghost stories and some really great stories, and everybody would just attract to the fire, and we'd talk and visit. We really, really got to know each other and had fun. There's my virtual fire for you all. There you go. And there's Elder Liz DeRoche's explanation of that beautiful kiamape. Come and sit, take that breath, step back, readjust and focus. Great words of wisdom and advice. So for me, I've always believed that as an Indigenous person and having the Métis background and the Métis roots, I always believed that there's a spirit in the Métis people, in our people. And our community, because we're that beautiful mixed fur trade heritage people, we came out of this creation, this creative process where the worlds were coming together and we were birthed into a place of creative space. We had to adapt our First Nations, our European heritage, and we had to mix it in this glorious stew pot and figure it all out. And we were put in a creative space to define ourselves. So art became very important to us, expressing our unique identity to our relatives, to the world, to the changing society. So to me, there's a spirit of being Métis that comes from creativity. And to me, that's one of the most valued elders' teachings that I've had, is the old elders, the Métis elders who raised me, especially my late father. He used to say, "Nurture creativity, my girl. It can solve so many problems, get you out of tight situations. Creativity can take you to unknown places and can change your life. No limits, creativity." It's the gift our ancestors had. We would take things in our history as Métis people, as we built our nation on this beautiful Turtle Island homeland, now known here as Canada in the northern part. And he said we used to take all these technologies and we'd adapt them to what worked for us. So you're going to learn a lot about symbolisms that are very Métis, that come from our history and our birth as a people. You're going to see a lot of patterns and colors that came out of that early fur trade origins and are still in my art today as a modern Métis woman carrying on the creative tradition. I have to say tonight, you're going to hear a lot about the positive aspects of my artistic practice. I choose to represent Métis children and families in a positive, strength-based way. There's a reason. Some of the people here we have Métis people here. We have our author, Karen I probably get to point her book out later. We have Elder Curtis. And we didn't see ourselves in literature, and I know they could back me up on that. We were not present as when we were growing up. There were no books, there was very little information, we weren't in the school system, the curriculum, we were just the invisible people. Yet we predated Canada. We helped actually create Canada. There's a lot we've done in our history. And there's a lot of trauma in our Métis history, but there's a lot of strength and beauty. So you're gonna see me representing the beauty of Métis culture, that I wanna keep going. But I have to point out that our history isn't pretty. We took up arms against Canada because they wouldn't negotiate with our leaders. They wouldn't give us our land that we asked for. And we actually took up arms in Saskatchewan at Batoche. And if anybody's in Saskatchewan this week, or on the weekend, the Back to Batoche days are happening right in Saskatchewan. Métis are coming from all over the homeland to remember and then to be heal and to celebrate and be strong again. My son took the photos in this PowerPoint. He's 22 years old, and I've dragged him to every art thing since he was little. And he dabbles in his own art form now. He does a lot of photography for me and himself, and he's more of a carpenter. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. But when he got behind the camera, he did show that, you know, we are people who really, really have been strategically dispossessed from our homeland, our connection to the bison, you know, not being able to get our land surveyed. And, you know, I did a special book, you're going to hear about it, about a river lot, a Métis river lot family. You're going to hear about that tonight. That's special. This is a place where Métis lived uninterrupted, and that land is still held in the family. That's a special and rare thing, that we have land and a place. What we've had to do is carry the spirit of being Métis in our heart. And I do that through my artistic practice. And my children's books, which are sitting here beside me, kind of giving me that strength. And I choose to do Métis stories, represent Métis children and families that are strong, that have the teachings, because I want that to be the story we keep moving forward as we grow in Canadian society. And I want our children to say, we are more than just trauma, and we are more than a dispossessed people. We are an amazing people who are strong, resilient, and creative. And you know, the old people always said, especially in our flag, balance. We're a mixed people. We have an amazing history. And we've had to do this incredible dance. You know, we did attend treaty negotiations for our First Nations relatives. We did translate for the French fur traders to get trade goods into the communities. And we always had to find, how do we find our center all the time with all our origins and who we are and our own identity. And one of the things is to stand strong, free, and be courageous. And be like the infinity symbol. You go one way, but come back to center. You go that way, but come back to who you are. And it is the land you'll see in a lot of my artistic practice that makes my work so strong and grounded. And it comes from that Métis infinity symbol on our flag, which you see, that reminds us to seek that balance. And I apply that principle in my work I do for children, in my artistic practice, and in my own life as well. I use it as kind of a check-in tool sometimes too, that beautiful symbol. Am I too much art and not enough, and too isolated and not enough social? And so as an artist, there's a dilemma. You got to retreat to create, but you also have to have a social life or you're not in balance. So that's so nice here to have a live audience participate. So my heart is in representing Métis families in a positive way, using the colors and patterns that our grandmothers and our ancestors had in their clothing, in their beadwork, in their silk embroidery. And Métis stories, when I grew up, my dad told some amazing stories orally, and I could feel the color in those stories, the detail. And my artwork is like my representation of how I felt emotionally, learning what it meant to be a Métis child, hearing my Métis stories from my father in the most loving, fatherly, guided way. I am blessed to have been raised by a Métis man that had an open heart. He came from a matriarchal family in Cumberland House, Saskatchewan, 2-story log cabin bought by his grandfather. His mother and 3 sisters raised the whole family. There were 28 people in that home on a given day. So you did leave a lot to do trapline and bushwork, and you know, it was a busy coming and going home. But a lot of love, a lot of stories, a lot of belonging, and a lot of support, a lot of color, and a lot of art. This artwork you see, so I do gallery shows as well. I do practice that. I have had several showings, Saskatchewan Heritage Park, Métis National Historical Park. I've had shows of just my standalone work, telling my story in my way. And some of these pieces are sort of my standalone pieces that I put in my shows to really show my love of Métis people and my roots and my history. So the one on the left is called Métis for 7 Generations. And there's that beautiful mother with the cradle board, the baby's on her back, and she has the 6 generations, and the baby represents the 7th. And off that Métis symbol is her thinking. And to me, I'm a Métis mom. I'm a community member. I do work in my community. I'm an auntie. Oh my goodness, I've been a grandmother for so many children who don't have one. And as that female Métis, my job, the old women told me, is to make sure that what I know goes forward and doesn't die with me. So I create art that can hopefully put the good stuff, the worldview, the passion, the belonging for future representations of Métis. And because I am, a lot of people don't know I'm a Métis historian. I actually have published a lot of history, and I did teach it at university for a time. And I loved the black and white images of my people when the camera came into our communities and our territories. But you know what bothered me is our people were so bright and dynamic, and I had an auntie who beaded and many other relatives who had many beautiful forms of making parkas and moss bags, things that we use to raise our children and dress ourselves and our family and our community. So I made myself a beautiful birch bark canoe with the Métis family paddling, because I couldn't find a good picture of one. In all my years researching, I saw several with, working Métis and the odd one that was blurry, but it just didn't meet my needs. And so I created this beautiful Métis family voyaging together, the mother, the father, the children, and that beautiful Métis flag at the back, because that flag was also a teaching for direction. And Elder Curtis is a paddler. He's a canoeist, and he teaches young people and his own children to canoe. And if you're a River Métis, which I am, and come from a River Métis heritage, we watched the wind direction. Told you so much about the quality of the water and the safety of your trip. So the Métis flag on the back of a canoe was a lifeline and taught you what the wind was doing, and also adjusted your paddling. So I absolutely love, I had to put our Métis flag, because they used to mount them, and when they would come in and the brigades, you could tell, oh, they're Métis traders. Look at that beautiful flag coming in. So I've had a few actual historians say, hey, I'm doing a book on Métis history. Can I use one of your paintings on my cover? Because I can't find a good picture to go with this scene. I'm like, absolutely. Unexpected, and I love it. So my artwork is getting into the most unexpected places, and that makes me very happy. One of the metaphors in my work is creativity. It gives you, our Métis elders talk about being flexible and how important that is in our culture, and it's a big part of my artistic practice is having that flexibility to be creative and that courage. And I just had to put this picture of the spider web and the willow, the bended willow that's in one of my cartwheel gardens, because it really reminds how important creativity is to freeing your spirit, especially coming from places where we're still dealing with a lot of heavy lifting. I think of the fires we've just had in our northern communities, and a lot of Métis have been dispossessed along with our First Nations relatives and other northerners. And you really have to dig into those creative decisions and be ready to pivot. And I find that the arts have really helped give me strength to do that in a good way. Yeah, and I'm mentorship. I've been mentoring. You know how I said that we have to pass it forward? That's what the old people taught me. Leah, you have to pass what you know. And we had something called a mentorship way of living, a model where we would be matched up, older women or elders would be matched with younger women, and we would teach them because they had an affinity to our knowledge set. And there's Danny Castle. She's one of my lovely local Métis where I live, who I've actually mentored and helped her develop her artistic career. And so she knows things from me, and I learned things from her, and we're both beautiful Métis women, and we've done some amazing work in our community. And I'm stronger for it, and I believe she's said many times she's stronger for it as well. So representing healthy families is really important to me, and healthy Métis families. There's just been a lot of stereotypes that, in our community that, about Métis families, a lot of judgments. There's a lot of poverty and things, yes. But really, our people are so rich in so many ways. And I just really wanted to really give those Métis families a positive visual representation. So this one painting you'll see, I wrapped a big Métis sash around the family who's on the land. There's berry picking going on, mentorship. The father is teaching the little guy to pick some berries. The mother has the baby in the moss bag, and the littles are there. They're learning about the land. They're sitting on the land, kamape, getting grounded. And I just really wanted to have a beautiful representation of families on the land as well. And there is a need. Our Métis children are just calling to reconnect with the land because our community has had a traumatic breakdown from our land and our territory. And Elder Curtis, who's here tonight, and myself, we do a lot to help restore the bond of urban Métis children and families to the land. And this artwork is a representation of how beautiful it is to bear witness to families and children, Métis families who've lost a connection, come to the land again together to learn who they are and feel belonging and feel connected to each other as Métis families. It's profound. We all need to belong to the land and find our place that gives us strength. And our elders know that. It's a human need, no matter where. And I've shared that with a lot of the newcomers in my community, that they come and learn, meet the river. Come out with us one day so you know the land that you're standing on now. It'll help you feel belonging, just like it helps us and our Métis families. So the old people, we had a child-centered social structure, and we put children and their needs at the center of the circle, and we protected those children so they could live a balanced, fulfilled life. And one of the things we're doing today, we're trying to bring our children back to the center of the circle. We've had a lot of our children get pulled into the child welfare system, removed from their families, and we're trying to bring those children back into the circle. So a lot of my books are helping Métis children who didn't know who they were find an inroad to reclaiming their Métis identity. Is it easy for them? No. Is a book going to do everything? No. But if it can be one window to seeing an inheritance that you've been denied and that you can pick up because it's your ancestral right, I'm happy to keep doing those books every day. And there's a quote from our Elder Curtis, who's sitting here today. Our Métis way is based on a child-centered society that strengthens our family and community circle. So Giving Thanks is another little children's book. I actually brought those two books so you could see them, not just on the PowerPoint. They're very little read-alouds. Teachers use them. We have some teachers in the room over here. And I did that so teachers, could even just share with anyone some of the Métis people and Métis teachings in a very, at a little age, so they can learn who their neighbors are. And maybe there's Métis kids in those classes. And I love these books. And Giving Thanks is a huge part of the Métis teachings. It's so common. And I just wanted to show in a Métis way those teachings of how to give gratitude for life. And I'm really happy to have been able to print many early years resources that you'll see here tonight. I think if we start representing at the earliest age, we're going to really help create stronger identity, belonging, and connection. This is a new work called 3 Generations on the other part of the slide, and it just shows how important bringing intergenerational learning is. And again, there's the wheel metaphor. We as Métis, we were traveling this land by carts and horses. That brought us actually out this way. Gabriel Dumont was known to come into this area with his cart and his horse and trade, and then bring stuff from the mountains into Batoche, Saskatchewan. Who would have thought? This is an old trade route. I'm standing on land where one of my historical leaders from 1885 traded with First Nations. Unbelievable. I'm meant to be here. It's an important place. I'm going to pick on Elder Curtis because he's here, and he's sitting over there, and he's shy, but this is another quote. He always talks about that 7 generations teachings that I received as well, and I love where our knowledge crosses. And he talks about, we have to make choices for our children that our choices impact 7 generations of children, so let's think about them. So you'll notice in a lot of my artwork, I have children, I have them on the mother's back in a cradle board. There's something called a moss bag. I can't believe I didn't bring one. And I have a lot of heart symbolism. Métis sashes are a very big part of our cultural identity and symbolism. And the infinity in the earth with a lot of hearts. That's very important to me. And I felt that artwork really supplemented Elder Curtis's quote here tonight. But he always says, children are the heartbeat of our nation. And what a great honor as an artist to have a child-centered artistic practice. And I love it. I remember reading one of my books to preschool for the first time, and I was just a new author. I was excited to go to my niece's preschool. And they looked at one of the artworks, and it was a mother holding a baby wrapped in what we call a moss bag, a beautiful swaddle. And one of the kids put their hand up, "Miss Dorion." And I'm like, what is that mother holding a big sausage? And I laughed. It was so adorable. I'm like, no, it's a moss bag. Note to self, Leah, bring the cultural artifact. And it was like they were in it, though. They were so in it. Again, the campfire storytelling thing, they go there. So with Elder Curtis's quote of child-centered, I remember going, okay, how do I take that teaching of a child-centered society that is our Métis historical inheritance? How do I make a contemporary artwork that reflects that? Well, that's what I came up with. The cart kind of circle, the community circle, because the bison were our big part of our economy, our identity. We are a bison nation people as well. It gave us our laws, sustenance, teachings about our society. The bison gave us strength and helped us with so much to be living on the prairie as Métis people. And so I decided to put the little babies in the center, the little baby bison, some little older ones running along the circle of the herd, and how important it is to make sure that the children are in that protective circle. So it creates quite an emotional reaction. I've had a lot of elders just stop at an art show when I've invited them to come look at the work on the wall, the real original work. And I just remember them stopping and go, oh my gosh, that's our way. You did it. Without words, just color and our Métis symbol and our berries and our way, you got it. And they love, the old ladies are like color risk takers. Like, they will combine the weirdest beadwork on moccasins and clothing because especially if they run out of a color, they have to innovate and they put the coolest, strangest colors. And I've always loved to do that in my artwork. And I think of those old ladies who had to substitute on the fly when they didn't have access to art supplies. The bison is in a lot of my work because, again, if you ever have a chance to learn about Métis history, the bison, it's just, and look where we are today with the sacred mountain. The bison spirit is here at this mountain. It's just amazing. And this place, the buffalo would actually come into this area, and then they'd come in winter, and then they'd come into the plains in the summer and feed on the fresh greens, and then they'd come winter here again, and our people knew that. They knew these things, and they taught us where to go, where to eat, where to live, where to winter. And so I'm so happy that I've done work with Métis Nation of British Columbia, and they are working with me. I never saw this coming, but it's natural from my work as an artist, a Métis artist who loves representing things at a child early years level. They created a Métis bison wheel carpet, a meditation carpet for a little kid to sit. And they get to sit with the bisons running. They saw the artwork and then, let's get her to we'll commission a carpet design. And then they have a puppet now with a little bison. So a little kid, a Métis kid at a childcare center today could sit in a Métis bison wheel with Métis colors, Métis symbols, and play with their buffalo puppet. Never would I thought that. And here we are. We are healing our people. And when we become well, all of us become well. Canada becomes well. The nation becomes well. When we heal the Métis Nation, everyone benefits. And when our children see themselves in their care, it's amazing. My first children's book that really hit it big was The Giving Tree. And it was published by a Métis publisher in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And it's been pretty well, I would say it's probably been printed 10 times, which is amazing for a community publisher. You know, it's not a mainstream publisher. It's a Métis run, managed, and owned publishing house, very specific. And they printed the book 10 times. I chose to tell the story of this tree. And the story, if you ever can get the book, lays out some of those important Métis values that are the inheritance of Métis people. So I'm just putting it out there. It was my first time illustrating like 33 artworks for a book. I wrote the story, and the story was translated by an elder, Norman Fleury, in Métis. And there is an audio recording so that young kids reading it or families can hear the ancestral Métis language of the fur trade, Métis. Now I put a little illustration from one of the pages in the upper corner. So when I create images for children, I want them symbolic, impactful, meaningful, and healthy and whole, and accurate and authentic. With creative license, of course, have to be rooted in love. I was told that they put a lot of offerings at the tree, and offered a lot of the Métis offered tobacco. When this tree was a trade tree, there's a hollow, they put things in it. People would give and take from the tree what they needed. It was an amazing historical tree. It did exist. A lot of people would offer tobacco. And when I wrote the book off the retelling from the elder Frank Tompkins, I was like, can I represent a family making a tobacco offering and sprinkling it on the ground? And I got the gift of, yes, do it. The world is ready. I think our community is ready. Before, that would have got me in trouble because it was illegal for so long in Canada to even do our traditional ways. Our traditional ceremonies were outlawed, and people had to be secret and do their little offerings hidden. We had to hide every part of our cultural identity and practice. And he said, we got to shed that. And we've kept some of these things, Leah. Our kids need to see it in a book. So I just put on the old warrior armor, took the elder's kick in the butt, and just did it. And said, it'll work out. Meant to be. And now children all over Canada, actually, are using a lot of this book in the curriculum, and a lot of grade 4, grade 5 students do artist studies, and they're using the Giving Tree, and one of the activities they do is they recreate using the art of Leah Dorion from the Giving Tree in their own artwork creation. Wonderful. And a lot of them, I think it's better than my art, to be honest. I love it. And it's just magical to see kids from all nations, all backgrounds, learning about Métis culture, and then doing an artistic interpretation. They're not recreating me. They're using me as inspiration and then putting their own signature stamp in their art. And that's really important to me, to find your own artistic style. I tell the kids that. Put your signature, you, in it. It may look like me because I'm your influence, but put you. And here's a quote right from the book. Papa spoke of our beliefs: if you take something from the tree cache, you are responsible for putting something back in return. It's gone crazy. I'm so happy. I got to make a mural, one of my biggest murals. Artists, you know you're really living the artist life when you make a mural in a public space. I did it. The Giving Tree, I made a Giving Tree in a big school library, Hugh Cairns School, and there are these children reading the book under the mural that we made, and every kid in the school got to hear me read the book. And then they made their own leaf from what they learned from my art residency and making the mural. And it was wonderful. So there's a little leaf of every kid at that school during that project. And then the senior students, I painted on ladders, the actual mural. It's a wonderful project. So my work represents Métis families enjoying each other, children being children, especially in history. In the historical photos, you just didn't see happy people. They were always mean or working, or like, they look crabby. And I'm like, no, I'm done with that. Because usually Dad was laughing and joking, and you're too serious, and he tried to tell terrible jokes. My sister, if she's watching, she knows. He used to try to use the worst trapper jokes to get us to smile. But again, to me, joyful childhood, where freedom to play and be creative. I think creativity is created in your childhood, and if it can be lovingly supported by your community, family, and your culture, even better. So I made these children climbing in a modern giving tree, and I just absolutely had fun, in my art practice, putting kids just at play with the Métis theme of Métis children. And I'm so blessed because a lot of organizations that are Métis are licensing my artwork for posters and things where they want to send a positive message today to Métis families in their organization. Some of the symbols, if you're not familiar with Métis cultural symbols, the moccasins and the basketry. There's a beautiful hollow there from one of the maple trees near Moose Jaw that I got to see. Toys. So just lots of beautiful beadwork and other items in the Métis culture. So a lot of my stories have like Métis values, and the giving tree really, and a lot of my literature, there's always a rooted value, and there's a lot of elders' teachings. And I have to say, so many of our elders have passed on, and this work that I've done, I feel it's so important that a little bit of them continues to go so that their grandchildren, great-grandchildren, can live by some of the teachings that they left, that they worked through me. So I'm really blessed to have had a lot of elders encourage me to take the steps to being an artist that fearlessly tackles Métis content. And I kind of didn't have a choice. I love the grandmothers, the Métis. You need to do this. And then I would have to find a way to do this. And that's all good. And they were teaching me, and they were strengthening me for a reason. Here's a beautiful poster series that is called Métis Values Give Us Roots by Métis Nation of BC. And as you can see, they're using my art, the Michif language, and some of the elders' teachings to put up in their community centers. Wow, unbelievable. They say the power of a color and art that's cultural really helps those families feel good when they walk into the community center or to the office. And that makes me very, very happy. And I love that the Michif language is being honored. And my art is supporting the Michif language because it is an endangered world language. We're in danger of losing the language in the next generation. And that is very concerning to me. Again, here's some more Métis families, going through that wheel of life journey. So you can see my artwork, there's a lot of circles, a lot of dots like beads. And I think you're kind of starting to see my sash and thunderbirds and strength symbols that are that I like to combine in my own particular way. But you can see it's just a lot of older people and younger people and intergenerational. That's really a hallmark in my work, is that real family representation. One of my books that's been very popular is the Métis Camp Circle book. And it tells the history of our Métis relationship with the bison. And I did bring a copy here as well, just for anybody who's interested. A lot of these books are in libraries and, of course, with the Gabriel Dumont Publishing. And I'm just going to put a little page here. In our past, Métis families traveled to the High Plains where they observed and learned from the bison beings. So there's just some of the artwork. And I am not a perfect artist, especially when it's for kids. I mean, these bisons are protecting the littles from a predator, and then the kids were like, Leah, Miss Dorion, what kind of predator is that? Is that a lynx? Is that a coyote? Is that a fox? I'm like, I don't know. What do you think it is? Because I really don't know. And they come up with a hybrid coyote-fox predator. We've got a new character on the plains. Love kids. And I've done some pretty amazing Métis bison-inspired community work. I'll read the book, and then I'll do a program in the community. And we made these bison figurines that ran our river valley with all the Métis values, and the kids got to learn Métis art, and then we put the installation by the river, so everyone jogging, walking, picnicking had the Métis buffalo line, and they could read and learn about our people while they were just enjoying themselves outside by the river. There's me with one of the figurines by the river, and just a modern piece of art that I've had in gallery shows with the 4 bison coming out of that rich, abundant flower and moving out from the center to the greater circle. So you're probably getting familiar with some of my work. It's kind of like a little eclectic now. It's getting stranger by the day as I get older. I think my work is actually getting younger and younger. I think it's the full circle process. But yeah, the horse, I represent a lot of the Red River cart, the horse, the sash, and the Métis flag. And the horse is such a big part of our Métis culture. And Elder Curtis and I have gone and made toys, little Métis-inspired hand puppets and toys in the community. So I do not have a normal artistic practice, but it is a lot of fun, especially when a pony just happens to walk up to your art workshop at Batoche, and an elder just comes along and sits there and enjoys, and kids get to play with their puppets with a real pony. Do you remember that, Elder Curtis? I was wondering. So, I have a little book called My Little Métis Sleepy Horse. I felt I wanted, kids love horses. They're dreamy to them. I made a little nighttime board book for parents trying to get their little kids to sleep. And you don't have to be Métis to enjoy it, but the Métis kids sure love the symbols. And I did a beautiful little Métis Sleepy Horse book just a few years ago. It was my first board book, which was amazing. I never thought I'd do a board book for littles. But boy, they're great. I would have loved this when I was a parent. Most people know, because when you are a parent, and kids can wreck a lot of books. So I would have loved this when I was a parent. So I really, being a mother of a Métis child as well, and Métis littles in our family, I read a lot to the kids. So this is something that I felt as an artist was a natural thing for me to do, to give parents a beautiful board book, especially for bedtime stories. This is Elder Curtis was the lead elder on this. We actually made a horse labyrinth, interactive art installation inspired by horse training circles. And we made we brought the bison figurines, some horse figurines. We used rocks and willow. And I trained one of my mentees, Ashley Smith, another wonderful Métis woman who I've been training because she has such an affinity for earth and outdoor art. And we just created this last summer at the Prince Albert Tourism Office. And it was such a wonderful, wonderful way to bring art interactive and get people walking and moving. There's Ashley Smith. She's one of the ladies who I've been working with, and she's just doing amazing things. She's a teacher, Métis, and she's growing her own artistic practice. So maybe I am somewhat attention deficit, but my father could do almost anything, and I think Karen's father could do almost anything too. Like, our fathers could do anything. I'm not kidding, you guys. Our fathers, Elder Curtis can do almost anything. He even is a commercial diver, welded underwater. He's these Métis men just taught me, and my mothers and aunties, you could do almost anything. So I actually did a lot of research on traditional Métis clothing. And a lot of our women wanted to wear our style of skirt that we had during the fur trade. And I had done tons of research. I had all the black and white photos. And I wanted to bring the pattern because my aunties wore it, but they weren't wearing them anymore. And the pattern was getting lost for our High Plains Métis ribbon skirt. So I started working with a local seamstress and Métis elder, Bonnie Johnson. She just knew how to, I took her all my pile of photos and said, Bonnie, can you reverse engineer this and make the book pattern? And together we co-authored the book, and she did just a great job bringing our pattern of the High Plains Métis ribbon skirt, which I'm actually wearing that pattern today as well. And there's my beautiful younger sister. And I actually chose to teach her to sew. And we had sewing Sundays for a year, because if I don't pass on what I know to my own family and just give to the greater community, I have not done my role as a Métis auntie, sister. And I mentored my sister, and then she taught her girls. Now her girls are teaching their friends. That's mentorship. That's art, Métis art in its finest, in the home, in the family. There's one of my ribbon skirts I made for a show, art show, and there's a workshop we did with Métis ribbon skirts at our art gallery. Yeah, it was really fun. Stitch and bitch, it was great. We worked through a lot of stuff and we were having fun. We designed skirts that would just rock the world. And it really helped us belong as Métis women in a modern way. Come together and protect some of our inheritance and make sure it doesn't get lost. Here's the there's the moss bags. I knew I put the slide in. These are the little baby bags that we would make to put our little babies and bundle them up. And that's one of the workshops we did. And the photo is so special. Shay Myers, if you're watching, if you ever watch this is 3 generations of Métis women. Shay, her mom, and her grandma. They came together to the workshop because they hadn't used them and they didn't want this knowledge to not be protected in their family. And they brought it back. There's, when our kids were little, there's my niece, Abby, and there's my son, Louis, and we made toys too, because we want kids to see themselves in their toys. So, you know, we really, as an artist, I've pretty well, as a Métis artist, I've worked with many mediums, practical and fun. And then toys, of course, making the little baby swing. My son loved being in a baby swing, so I hit the little horse there in a little baby swing. How the moon came to be. I've been doing a lot with nature and cycles with my art practice. So I've done a lot with the moon because I find that helping connect to the land, I felt that a lot of our Métis really needed to learn how to observe cycles in nature, and the moon is one of our greatest teachers. So I did the book, How the Moon Came to Be, to help train that observation. Everyone is affected, and everything on earth is affected. And I found it really good for our young Métis to start reconnecting with cycles. So I did a great book inspired by the Elders' teachings, and Elder Curtis helped me edit that one. So there's my representation of the moons and its cycles and the joy and the strength it brings and the grounding and the moon is like so inspiring. If you're blocked, hook into the moon. It can help. It helped me anyway. And if it can help you, awesome. So just a few other obscure, like, people are going to go, what the heck? Why do you do such strange things? But it's culture. I have a heavy culture practice. We had lobsticks. We took these huge 100-foot, 80-foot trees growing in the river valleys by lakes, and we would modify them and make lobstick poles to mark our territory, medicines. Some had limbs to point to a trade to another community, a route to another community. So we made over there a modern lobstick pole for my city where I live, Prince Albert, which was formerly called Kashtapananic, the Great Gathering Place. Elder Curtis was the lead artist on there because he's a woodworker as well. So yeah, it's been fun to do some of these really neat creative projects that are like holistic and fabric and lobsticks and painting, all sorts of different things. But many people didn't know this, and so Gabriel Dumont published the book, My First Métis Lobstick, which tells the story of a little Métis boy back in history learning how to make his first lobstick. And you learn what it is, where they were marked, how they were used, and I just felt that was such a big contribution to learning Canadian history from a Métis point of view, especially a River Métis point of view. There's some great pictures of us doing it. It was so much fun. We had multi-ages. Most of my workshops are like, they're never homogenous. I'll get a grandmother, I'll get a pre-K kid. I'm like, oh boy, how do I teach all of you in one workshop? Curtis does the power tools and the wood burning with the older kids. I'll do the button gluing with the littles. You got to really plan community art when you're multi-generational approach. And the lobstick is still there. It was an experiment. They were actually only going to keep it a season, and it's still there. And it looks beautiful as the day it was made. So again, there's a beautiful painting and some of the Métis artifacts, the moccasins, but just my representation of the Métis stages of life and going through the journey, seeing life as a journey. And just again, the harshness of colonialism has created a ripple effect in the community, and there is a lot of anger, withdrawal. And it's time to decolonize that and put a new ripple of respect, love, belonging, nurturing, kindness. And that's what I choose to do with my artistic practice, is to do that other ripple. And I do give much credit to the artists who do the heavy, heavy work, on the healing. So post-residential schools and all those other heavy issues. I give you credit for that. I stay in my lane of doing this ripple of beauty, of loving, nurturing, and pulling that belonging piece and bringing people back to the strength of their cultural inheritance. So I've really tapped into that Métis teaching of freedom and being creative. And I think there's just such a liberation, just going without fear. And my ancestors were not fear-based people. So when I get a little bit of fear or I over-criticize my work, oh, it's not good enough. Oh my God, am I being too weird in how I interpret this Métis teaching? I just have to really learn to work through the bigger vision and just fearlessly be creative with my heart, and it usually works out for the good. Because I think artists' role, and Métis artists, we are there to challenge the narrative and to put a new story out there and do our part for our people. And again, rolling Métis families into the future. We're not going nowhere. We're getting stronger. We got a lot of things to do to heal. But my whole practice has been Métis families and culture. They're my inspiration, the children. And I love putting that in my work. And it just makes me feel good. One of the things too that the elders taught me is to be the boss of yourself. Just own what you do, stand in it, own yourself, express yourself, and be experimental minded. Try not to be too set in your ways. So always challenge yourself to push your boundaries. And I think my artistic practice has done that for sure. And I push a little boundaries and I mix a lot of genres in a weird way. And I do call myself an interdisciplinary artist because of my Métis approach is super interdisciplinary. And there's no other way to honor it. We are a very diverse, amazing people. So I think the final message I want to leave before we do questions is we're often called the people who own ourselves. We're fiercely independent. And I just want to leave the message, stay wild, stay creative, and remember your imagination is free. Yeah, it's free. It doesn't cost a thing. So I really want to thank you for listening, but I want to acknowledge a book I just did recently. It's just came out. It's called I Am Métis. And our author, Karen, is sitting right here tonight. She is the writer. Give Karen a shout out. Karen didn't know I was doing this, sorry. But you knew there's a reason I called you and begged you to come tonight. Her book is her first book. This book is about her family's river lot. This is her father, her Métis father, in her life as a young girl. And I got the honor of illustrating her story of her journey of being a river lot Métis growing up in Manitoba. So if you can get the book and take a peek at it, and the writing is beautiful. And my artwork was so intentional. Karen gave me pictures of her father with his ducks and his toque and his snowshoes and his skidoos. Oh, it was wonderful. And I just I was meant to illustrate her story, because her father and my father they did the River Métis life. We were meant to be. And I just want to acknowledge Karen tonight and put a shout out for her work. I think she's going to do a lot more, because this really comes from an authentic place. And we need the stories of lived memories of Métis kids growing up in their land. And what I love about their land, it's still in the hands of Métis. That's a rare thing. Many of us have lost so much. They kept it. So bless the family, the Hurry River lot. Yeah. So that's my little Masi tonight and my shout out. And again, just to end, we are weaving together a beautiful, strong sash, and we're going to pass, as Métis artists, we're going to pass more forward, and we have that responsibility to do that. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you all find that inner creator that is in every one of us, and find something to inspire you. And I really appreciate for you to all learn about my nation, my Métis people, our heritage. We're just like the sleeping giant. We haven't been heard, but we're ready. We're ready to showcase who we are. We're coming out now. We're not hiding anymore. So I'm going to get Janine to come, and we're going to shift gears and maybe take a few questions. Okay.
I think my auntie's probably cringing when I grabbed the mic. My cousins that I helped raise are actually grandchildren of Frank Tompkins, the late Tompkins. So my uncle Frank Tompkins Jr. raised me, and that's actually my auntie, who's the mother of the children. So I heard Tompkins, and I seen her look, Janine's gonna say something. But it just shows the Wakotoan values and the interconnections that Métis had with the Indigenous people. And in particular, I'm Woodland Cree, so from that territory. But when you said Cumberland House, I have to share the story. My son's not here anyways to stop me. But I did so much artist in residencies with NAMS. And so we went there often, but as a Indigenous mother artist, self-employed, I took my kids everywhere. So they were part of the workshops. My youngest was even doing a Minecraft workshop. But we went there every season. And because we were disconnected because I actually am from Waswanipi Cree Nation as well on my mom's side, so James Bay Agreement, which is quite far, so we are a little bit far from the maternal side, but the paternal side we feel close to. So then Delari was upset, comes to me and goes, "We're from Cumberland House, right?" I was like, "No." But what happened is because the community was so warm, so generous, they didn't see this as an outsider kid. This kid needed to be pulled in. And so, of course, he thought he was from Cumberland House. Yes. Because as our Wakotoan values, our family values, we love all the children, not just our children, or my auntie's children. But, the idea is that as a community, we come together and raise children. And so, those values, when you find them in community and you see them come out, it's really important to know that they're still there, and we're still rebuilding our social structures and our family structures. So I just wanted to thank you for sharing that. And I had to put my auntie on the spot there.
Yes. Aunties need to. We love you.
Oh, she'll get me back on the commute home, I imagine. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you. And I think being in La Ronge, some of the symbols, the plants that come there, for me, I think that was the attraction to the art, is because I did recognize the sunflowers actually. Because my mom, when she went to La Ronge, she said Jim Brady liked to grow sunflowers. So one year we grew sunflowers in honor of Jim Brady.
And Jim Brady raised up my dad.
Oh.
Yeah, Jim Brady raised my dad. And my auntie, half my aunties and uncles that's their biological father. So I consider him a mushum to me. And he was really influential on my father. A matter of fact, that's where I get a lot of that freedom concept, right? And I did not know that he loves sunflowers as much as me. Thank you for sharing. See why we tell stories. Oh my God, and I'm wearing yellow.
Yeah. And so we are going to open up any questions online and in person. So I'll keep talking, but if something comes up, feel free to put your hand up. We do have, and we got a question. Great. So if we can get a runner to come up, Ali, the Indigenous Arts Program Manager and helping me host today, we'll come up and meet you with a mic. And
Yes, just making sure. Yep, it's working.
we just want everyone to hear the question too.
I just want to say thank you. That was a beautiful experience. Thank you very much. Quite often we hear comments, for example, on the radio, people interpreting. One comment I've heard is that the Métis Nation actually is embedded in the Red River Valley Nation. Can you talk a little bit about how you derive your connection to that, please?
Yeah, oh my God. I'm a fur trade historian, everyone. You know, I have such deep understanding of our origins and our migration from the Great Lakes into Red River and then points above. I like to lay a cartwheel on the Red River settlement, which is current Winnipeg. And if you lay that hub of that wheel right at Winnipeg and then you put 100 spokes and you make the circle huge, that's getting a little bit closer to our Métis. We are so trail and trade oriented, and the best way I could visually represent it is that you put that's a hub, but the spokes go far and they go big. Think about Louis Riel, you know, working and living in North Dakota, and the Métis were already there, and his wife was from North Dakota. And when the Canadian border was created, that severed half his wife's family and him. They had to do a lot of kinship, you know, relations when the border came in to get across that border to visit relatives. So there's a lot. And there is a great, Métis and a Medicine Line is a great historical book that tells that story. But there's also, if you looked up Lawrence Barkwell, he's a late historian. He has some really good publications that talk about that and the kinship and all the families and all the trade routes and that hub, that strong connected hub of Métis people.
Interestingly, along the Trans-Canada, they preserved a little stretch of the old Red River cart trail there.
Yes.
You can still see where the wheels rolled.
And they're very hard to find. We have a little bit of that in Saskatchewan near Fort Carlton. So thank you for sharing. We are there on the land, and we got to protect what's there because once it's gone.
And yes, well, this is easy access. It is in Saskatchewan along the highway, and they have preserved it.
Yeah, thank you. Can I ask one question to someone in the audience?
Oh, of course.
Okay, Karen, I just got you here. How did it feel for me and to work with you to tell your story and your relationship with your father? Oh, look at, they even have a mic right with you. Just curious.
You're ready.
Is this on? Okay, it's on. As a first-time author, when I started working with the publisher, my biggest fear was who I was going to get paired with as an illustrator, because when you give up your words to a publishing company, I didn't know how many rights I would have. And I was very concerned because to me, as an educator, writing a children's book, the illustrations were going to be everything. That's what would make or break my words. And so it was a long process, and I wasn't getting a lot of feedback from the publisher, let's just say. And I would send them these emails, just sort of saying, oh, I really enjoy this illustrator or that, and got nothing from them, nothing at all. And I'm like, it was my biggest worry. And then out of the blue one day, they're like, oh, we've been talking with Leah Dorion, and I knew all about Leah and hadn't even dared to suggest that Leah might illustrate my book because I thought that's out of my league as a first-time author. I was just floored. I was absolutely floored. But then I was worried again, too, because I'm like, oh, Leah, her artwork is everything I dreamed of, and I'm so excited, but does she just go ahead then and read my words and off we go? Like, how does this work? And so when Leah and I started talking, and she said, I need pictures, Karen. I need pictures of your dad. I need pictures of your river lot. I need pictures of canoeing and hunting and snowshoeing and trapping. And I'm lucky. I'm so lucky that My family history is ingrained. I'm very lucky because my Orkney ancestors were literate, and so our family history was always written down and ingrained into every generation. Everybody in my family, we know where we come from, we know who we are, so that's such a blessing because it was never hidden from us. So I had lots that I could share with Leah, and she was like a sponge, like just give me more, give me more, and it was just such a delightful partnership to work with Leah because she was so receptive to everything that I sent her, and wanted to know fine details that would make her illustrations and my story just mesh so well together. And it was a blessing. It was a blessing to work with Leah.
Thanks, Karen. And yeah, it's scary because I've illustrated my own stories for a long time, and there's like, it's hard to do other people's stories. You want to do a good job, and you want to do it accurate and catch the heart of spirit of what their story's about. Wilfred Burton is the other Métis artist that I've illustrated. So I've only done 2 of other people's, but it's been wonderful. And collaboration is so important. And having Karen and I had to really push. Our project was getting always pushed to the back burner, and we just put our Métis flex on, and then we made it happen. And you got to do what you got to do, right? You got to put the flex on, and it worked. It's done.
Nice.
I have a question too. Oh. Karen, what's your full name so people who are online can look you up?
So my family names are Hurry, MacGyver, and Raleigh. From the Red River Territory, my family owns 4 river lots in the parish of High Bluff. We were lucky enough, just talking briefly about displacement, my family originally had land in Selkirk, but were displaced. But because of all the work my family had done for the Hudson Bay Company, the Hudson Bay Company gifted my family land, which is, the parish of High Bluff is near Portage la Prairie, Manitoba, and we were gifted river lots by the Hudson Bay Company in 1859, so predating Canada, and our family has lived continuously on those river lots ever since. To this day, my brother now is living on our family river lots, as well as my cousin. And so my family name is Hurry. The title on my book, Karen Hurry Ellefson. Ellefson is my married name. Hurry might not be spelled like you think. It is spelled Hourie. Often in Métis histories, actually it's spelled a variety of ways in Métis history books, but and pronounced more than one way too. But because we are Scottish, Orkney, Cree mixture in true Métis fashion, my Hurry family in the Orkneys, I still have connections also with my Hurry family in the Orkney Islands. Like we have a lineage that goes back there, and they have come and visited us here on my Manitoba homelands, and we have gone there as well to the Orkneys to visit them. So that's pretty special to me that our family is still so connected, even to this day, 200 some years later, because the first Hurry came over in the 1700s to work for the Hudson Bay Company.
Okay, Ali passed the mic to me, so it's my turn. Haha. Okay, so the question I have is maybe diving a little bit into that mentorship and passing on the learnings. When you're maybe having those workshops with multiple generations, and particularly the youth, do you find that they're evolving maybe the symbolism, the artwork, the stories, just a little bit more about how potentially that's evolving into future generations?
Oh my goodness, yes. When you work with youth, it's like they teach me, I think, more than I teach them. The way they'll reinterpret things. They'll like study how, say, I use the infinity symbol in certain locations. Sometimes it's in the ground, sometimes it's in a river current, sometimes it's hovering around someone's head if they're in a Métis teaching way, right? And the kids are like, look at that, and then they'll find new ways to represent it even more, and that blow me away. So I think it is a two-way street, but I'm glad that I got a body of artwork with the Métis symbols so that they can see how I chose to use it, and then they could springboard off that. At least it's there for them, and it's amazing what they've done. I just wish I had a real concrete example, but I've seen so much work that the kids have made over the years that just goes so further, and that's what we want. Nessie?
Yeah, just thinking a lot, like with myself, my children are part of my practice. They're now adults, but right from my first film, I was pregnant with one, and she's now 18. So they've been progressively part of it, then they informed it, and now they help. They actually pitched the last two that went to the NFB. That was their film ideas. But knowing the multi-generational approach, but also knowing that a lot of Indigenous people work together. Like, I think that's something that I just know personally, but I've also, in this series and other programs, it's very natural that people work together, and they are almost like complementing in that balance each other's gifts. So I see that balance.
Just try it, just go for it. And for instance, the sewing workshops, like there are young girls taking the historic pattern but embellishing it, and it's like, wow, you know, and telling their story. And it's so exciting because I've helped them document some of their, like, write an artist statement for your skirt, write an artist statement for that. And they're like, wow, I never thought about it. Or make a short so that we can interpret what's your process. And that's really important for young people to see process, and things have a time and a cycle, because so many want to just sit, get it done, and move on. And so really showing a more cyclical way of being an artist and going through a process. It's fun.
Yeah, and just doing it. Like I found theory came later.
Theory
I just
comes
had
later.
to do it. There was no choice.
Do it.
And then the learning happened. So, yeah. No, I really love the work. I love how you engage community. You know, I think, especially nowadays, we're starting to hear, what's your community engagement plan? And there's definitely people who've been doing it because it's part of how they work. And there's some that concept's a little bit more of a challenge. But what I found very interesting, because you centered it in one of the slides, was your values and how those are important and how the people you bring together are important. So I just wanted to see if you had anything to share about how you foster those values. Do you center them in everything you do?
Yeah, it's all about the having a vision with attached values. I think when you create that, everyone jumps in and they want to explore it, and they want to find their place in an art project, and they want and matching the right, if it's a drop-in or a community, right skill for that person, and give them a tangible thing that they can do with confidence. But some need challenging, give them a challenge. So it's always, I like working as artist teams. I love having helpers. I build in elders participation and mentorship. Like, I'm now getting to the point where I don't want to do anything without my elders present and my mentees, because they just like make it flow. And then I can free up me to do other things, like move around a room and see more, talk to more people. I'm not so worried about paint getting on somebody's clothes there, or you know, someone working with a tool they shouldn't be at that age, you know. So building in a lot of supports and having a lot of fun and clear, you know, expectations. This work is going to go here, everyone, or it's going to go by the river, and this is the meaning. So really being clear on the vision and outcome for the art that's being made too motivates everyone. And then invite them to any opening. They love that. It's like, I did that.
Yes.
It's fun.
I have a question for Leah. My family we have very strong musical heritage. And I was just wondering, have you done any collaboration with art and music together? Because that really speaks to my heart as well, the music, because I had uncles who were fiddlers and keyboard players, and whenever we got together as a family, which is often in large Métis families, there's always music. And so I'm like, your art and music needs to come together. Have you done that?
You know, I've done, when I was with Gabriel Dumont, we did a Métis fiddle CD with Métis fiddlers, and I was helped put the project together, but I never did an interdisciplinary thing. It's time. I think you're open. See how this stuff happens? It's like somebody in the audience, Leah, make a coloring book. Okay. Leah, make a collaboration. And there's some amazing Métis fiddlers that are young. Adam Daniel, Joseph, he's from Île-à-Croix. So I think I'm going in that direction because I do think that is such an important thing. I love crossing mediums. And music, I love music.
Well, we have a saxophone right here for
Oh,
you
yeah. My inner
now,
romantic.
I think someone also played a trick and told people to look under their seat last time we did an event. There was nothing under there.
Nothing.
Well, we're getting pretty close, but I do want, if anybody has a question or online, we definitely want to welcome anyone online.
We haven't had any questions online, but I have a question for you.
Awesome.
Is there any, in your journey in storytelling and community, is there anything that's still biting at your heels, something that you haven't done that's not necessarily on the back burner, but maybe a passion project that may require a larger amount of people? Or is there something that you haven't done that you're just like, this is what I'm trying, your opus? What do you have?
You know, it's funny because I'm kind of at this little void. You know how you produce. I'm like, I'm actually taking a breath right now, and which is nice, and kind of pulling myself back in as an artist. I've taught so many people, and it's like my artwork's even changing, and my genres are starting to shift. So this music thing, I think I need a little groove. But I think every artist goes through a period of where you pull all yourself and reflect, and that's why this lecture is so special to me, and I put a lot of thought in the PowerPoint to reflect on my career. Is I'm at a point where I need to really look back at my career and look where the gaps are and rebirth myself. Like I'm going to be mid-50s right away, and I want to walk into that next phase and do a really fulfilling art practice in the next phase in a good way. So yeah, taking the void time is really good. I still always have really great projects, but yeah, I haven't had a new spin in a while, so it's coming. And it'll be loud.
And this is a great location for that soul-searching, vision-questing, career-finding, because we're situated on this mountain. And I always say, as I said, we put our teachings in the present, so this mountain is known for the frequencies. So sometimes people can't sleep, sometimes they sleep really amazing, but traditionally the young people came, they would come bring their offerings to the mountain, and they would ask a question, whatever it was, or if that was part of their journey. So when artists started coming and they're here with these questions, these projects, they want mentorship, they want to be inspired, they want time to do that good work that they're here. For me, those are sacred medicine bundles they're working on. It doesn't matter what culture, you're coming with a story. You're coming with something that you want to ripple into the world, and you're giving it that life. So that care, I always feel like when they come here, I know Banff Centre does that good work to do as much as we can, make sure you got your bed made, you got food, but really that energy that comes from the artists, we love to see when they get that next level or that project comes together, or they scrap the project, which freaks people out, and then it becomes an evolution. But I think the main thing is people have been coming for many years, and when you connected yourself to this space through your lineage, when people come and they can make that, that's powerful. Because now this is a place you can come for that work. And as Indigenous people, I always say we're very welcoming. So our hospitality is built in, and it's inclusive. So I always say you're meant to come to those powwows, the dances, the round dances. So I'm really glad for all of you who came out here tonight and to spend some time
Sorry, I'm
with
just
us.
going to jump in right there, Janine. We do have a couple of online questions that have popped in.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So
We got
we'll get
peeps.
we want to hear from the
People
online folks as
I'm
well.
happy.
Yes. So this one is actually, it's not a question, it's a comment. Hi, Leah and Curtis. So nice to see you in Banff speaking about the Métis and how you incorporate their systems and history in your artwork. Just an anecdote, Banff was a Métis settlement and they were displaced in 1885 when Banff was created as a national park. The same occurred in Jasper in 1912. It is nice to see you back visiting those roots. So proud of you, Calvin Resett.
Calvin Musham, Calvin Resett. Thank you, Musham, Calvin. Oh my God, how could I not? He's one of our elders. He currently lives in Regina, Saskatchewan. He's always telling me stories about this place and the horse and the trade. And thank you, Musham. You are always with me in spirit. And he has, I have to say, you have certain elders that are just patrons of the arts. Elder Calvin Resett is a patron of the arts. He purchased, in my early career, I think like 8 original paintings when I was just starting. And he has, because he knew he'd want to keep supporting me financially and encouraging me. And he was one of the elders in my community, in the Métis community, who kept pushing me, keep going, keep going. And he would like show my work and promote my work and purchase my work. He was one of my first community patrons of the arts and financially purchased some beautiful work. So if you ever need on loan, Calvin Resett has a beautiful collection of eclectic Leah Dorions. Thank you, Musham.
Amazing, and the Regina thing, because that's where my auntie's
Oh my God.
heading tomorrow, actually. So definitely Treaty 4. Like, raised my kids actually in Regina, so very familiar with that area. Well, we're getting close
I
to
have,
the
I
end.
have
What
a
you
question.
said, was there something else? Okay, turn around. It's all right.
I wasn't familiar with your work until I did the Indigenous Canada course through the University of Alberta, and we were talking about that a little bit earlier. Can you speak to your experience on that project?
Oh my gosh, thank you for bringing that up, because that's what connected Janine and I and a lot of people. The University of Alberta Indigenous Studies Department created a free online Indigenous Studies course. And when they were developing it, they had a few artists in mind, and their artists didn't want to go there. And because I have an academic background and an artistic background, they kind of said, talk to Leah. Maybe Leah will take it on. I know it's university, but she's pretty open, and she has the history. And so the Dr. Frank Tuff and Tracy Bear, who was doing her PhD at the time, said they'd love me to commission to do the modules, illustrate modules of their course, and then make mini videos explaining the art's meaning. And I said to them, listen, you realize I'm a kids book author predominantly, and that my work is kind of like fluidity and it's like not realism. And I said, if you're willing to let me hold my style, I will illustrate your course, your university course. That was so, again, those moments of make you a real artist, that made me grow as a person and an artist in ways. It was a dream to illustrate an academic course with the kids style art. Best ever. That's going to go in my Leah Dorion history book forever. So thank you for bringing that. And I can't believe I didn't put that in the slide. That was really meaningful to me. Brought my worlds together in a really powerful way. Thank you. Masi.
Yeah, I definitely recommend the course. I've also taken that course and even had my children watch the videos. So yeah, when I said that you were coming, that's when they mentioned, like, we love the art, we love that, but all we remember is that drumming. As soon as that first thing is just loud and they'd wake up, okay, we're ready for the next module. So maybe that was a teacher's trick to get them up.
I would think so.
Awesome. Well, I'm very humbled that you were able to come and that you said yes. I always feel blessed when people agree. You never know. And then also that I always say we can't host these events without people. So I also want to thank everyone for taking that time to come here. And as I say, we don't actually say goodbye in our culture. We say later. So muestes. And the idea is that in this life or the next, we'll see each other again. So wish everyone a safe journey either to your hotel or home, wherever you are, and just big gratitude. So feel free to come down as we shut down if you do want to take a look, and feel free to make that connection. So for everyone online, thank you for joining us, and we're good to go. Thank you.